Okay, I'm going to start recording. I'm also going to start to share the screen. I just want to make sure that you all actually are able to see it. Wait, okay, I'm going to start the. I'm going to okay, so can you all see it? Can you all see the PowerPoint slides? If you can, maybe just type in the thing that you can actually see.
Yes, you can see.
Yeah, you can, right? Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to start. So today I'm going to go into the what I call Great Awakening Person Transformation. So just before we do that, of course, like I mentioned, there's actually going to be a two-part response. This is in response to the Rose Eagle Tree talk. So for those of you who have not actually watched the Rose Eagle Tree talk or don't really know what it is about, it's found on this Freedom Digital platform. Brian Rose interviewed David Icke. So who is David Icke? He's in the past, of course, people talk about him as a conspiracy theorist, right? Like way before this whole pandemic happened, like 10 to 15 years ago, I was actually following some of his books. And his premise was that there is an elite group of people, about the 1%, which is controlling the rest of the world through many different ways, like through the money system, through the mass media. Like they control all the major news outlet, the magazines. They control the pharmaceutical companies. They are involved in the oil and energy. They're also involved in a lot of the illegal stuff, all the drugs, mafias, the human trafficking. They're also responsible for wars and all these different things. So basically, it's like I'm sure many of you have watched the Matrix movie. The fact that we are actually under a matrix where we are all imprisoned or enslaved by a group of people. And this group of people, there have been different names for it. We call them Illuminati, the Cabal, what we call a deep state. And actually, long before this, right? Long before this, when I read the David Icke, especially when he talks about one thing which is very controversial, he says that the Illuminati is not just humans, right? That actually above them, there is somebody who's controlling the Illuminatis, and these are the aliens. And specifically, he mentioned about a group of reptilian beings. And at that point in time, I'm not so deep into the whole UFO and all this alien stuff. So when I see that, I was thinking, a lot of it sounds very reasonable, because when you look at how the world functions, it just seems a bit suspicious. So when I read some of his books, I find that, it makes a lot of sense. But when he goes into all the reptilians, aliens, and all these kind of things, I wasn't that bought into the whole thing. And honestly speaking, right now, if you ask me, are really reptilians controlling the Illuminati? I cannot be 100% sure. But if you ask me, is there Illuminati or a coordinated effort to control the world? My answer is definitely yes. Especially with this pandemic, I think more and more it is very clear that something is really going on. Okay, so now going back to the Brian and Rose and Icke tree, right? During the talk itself, they actually were discussing about this whole pandemic issue. David Icke is quite, depends on how you define it, he's quite extreme in saying that there is actually no pandemic, that this whole thing is a fraud. Because what the Illuminati like to do is using this problem, reaction, solution model, which means that they will create a problem. And because of that, creating that problem, people are going to react to it. And the way they react to it is usually through fear. They're afraid. And when they're afraid, they will voluntarily enslave themselves. That means, and you can already start to see that happening. Like people are, if you don't wear a mask, your neighbor is going to say, hey, how come you're not wearing a mask? And they can snitch on you. They will tell, I have someone tell me that, the neighbor actually called up the police, and because she invited the boyfriend home, all kinds of this kind of thing, which is very, very similar, to fascist states, Nazis during Germany. A lot of this control, and we are at some level already moving into that, equation. And that problem, the reaction is actually done by the people themselves. So they're very, very smart in the sense that they create a problem, And you will be the one asking for a solution. You will be the one asking for a vaccine. You will be the one asking for more stricter rules. You'll be the one asking for quarantine. You'll be the one, pushing for things that basically restrict your own freedom. And then very intelligently, they will then offer you the solution, right? Which is exactly what they want and which is what you say you want, right? And throughout history, by doing this problem reaction solution, which is only one of the model or one of the things they use, in the second talk, I will be going to all the, or at least the different strategies that they use in order to, get their way. They have gradually, slowly moved us towards what we call Hunger Games society. For those of you who have watched Hunger Games, which is, of course, our Singapore TV is very smart. Our Singapore TV is not exactly very rich. They buy one film rights, and then they just keep playing. So I think I've seen Hunger Games being played on TV for maybe 3 to 4 times, at least it's like a 3 series. And if you look at the Hunger Games society, they end up being one very like a city, right? There's this city who's super rich, and all the other districts are very, very poor. And at the end of the day, they even have to, volunteer people to go to this like a gladiator kind of style, like Roman gladiator kind of style, where they will actually kill each other, and eventually the winner will, be honored and all of this, which is so. David Icke is very afraid, and I think rightfully so, that we're moving more and more as a global, not just, it's no longer just one country or any country. We can't just say, it's just USA or it's just Singapore or it's just China, but it is a global system of, really tightening on our right to exist as an individual, as a free sovereign person. And of course, some of you should have known that, there's this whole news about this sovereign lady, who refused to wear her mask, and because of that, she got she got caught up in courts, and then all these different people going to courts for meeting up and gathering. Okay, so of course, I'm not going to say more because then maybe I might get into trouble with the law. But all I can say is that we can just say 6 months ago, right? Nobody gets caught to courts for not wearing a mask. If you really think about it, it's insane, right? It's like we, in a way, many of the things that we take for granted, our freedom to even, just walk normally on the streets. Now we can't even travel, right? Which is, again, one of the fundamental rights of a human being, to travel. And at the end of the whole talk today, if we have time, I will actually go into this whole thing about sovereignty, because that is a very personal issue, right? Okay, so anyway, going back to Rose and Icke tree again. So he actually projects, Icke is actually projecting to say, first of all, that there's no pandemic. Second of all, that he can really foresee what's going to happen, that this whole thing is a plan to eventually force a vaccine on us. And the reason why is because Illuminati has the overall plan of a one world government, or a system where there's no longer any government boundaries, which means that everything gets controlled by a central government, which of course they'll be part of, right? And secondly, that all humans basically will come under this government, which means that we are all, in a way, slaves might be an extreme word, but I think in this case it is correct, right? That means we are basically all subjected to one government. And it is actually a technocratic society, which means that it will be run by technology. And you can really see that happening with all the 5G, the smart nation, because why technology? Because technology allows them to do a lot of things. Surveillance, it allows them to control the flow of money. It allows them to, to be able to know what you actually like, all this market segmentation, all these things, which I also talk about. I don't know whether through this talk or the second talk, this whole thing about 5G, right? Since I mentioned it already, so maybe I'll just talk about it. When you think about it, why do we need 5G, right? And is our video not streaming fast enough? right? So one of the theory about the 5G is that the reason why 5G exists is really because it is for the corporation. In order to gather our information, to gather our intelligence, right? They need 5G to know, for example, okay, let me just give a very concrete, specific example. Let's say we are, nowadays, especially a lot of people are wearing this watch where they can actually count their heartbeat, right? So once your 5G is in place, that information, your heartbeat, is basically recorded. And they will know whether your heartbeat is normal, not normal. They will know your full health history, maybe through that. I mean, of course, all of it is interconnected to, your Google search history, what are you interested in, what are you looking at? And this then forms the profile of who you are as a person. And based on that, all this information can be sold to companies. The companies will then target you specifically for the things that you're interested in, right? And so that's one, right? I mean, the whole idea of 5G is that it's actually for corporation. It's for them to gather information and surveillance on us so that they can then market up to us, right? The second part, which is even more scary, is that some people have also said that 5G is basically a biological weapon. It's a weapon that can control us. If you're not in line, they can activate something, and the 5G basically is harmful. So it's like if some of you know Tesla, it's basically something that they can actually do like a death ray, right? So all of these things is happening right, in just, I mean, can you imagine all of these things is happening just over the last 6 months, and we can really, I mean, to me, I can really see what is coming, right? And what Ika says is coming is like I say, this whole technocratic thing that is people in charge, and the people in charge are basically scientists, right? So they one of the things that they also want to do is to actually abolish all religion. They want to remove religion. Eventually, the elite group of people are super rational. Some would say skeptical, but actually they're not skeptical in the sense that they totally know what is happening in terms of how the universe function, but they will deliberately say that it's a totally different thing, because what they know and what you know, there must be a knowledge disparity. Because if you know what they know, then they lose power over you. And I guess a large part of the reason why I do these 2 talks is actually really to provide whatever information I know. I'm sure a lot of you also have other information, and maybe it can be something that would help other people down the road as well. Yeah? And that's also the reason why I'm recording. Yeah. So one other thing that David Eaker talks about is that eventually he see, that what is very likely to happen, which I already also can foresee is going to happen, is that there's this whole thing in the Spanish flu. And for some of you who don't know about the Spanish flu, it happens in 1918, where something very similar happened, a flu virus entered into the population. There were 3 waves altogether. The second wave was the wave in which a lot of people died. And the crazy thing is that I've been reading a lot of research that shows that the people who died in the second wave actually were vaccinated. That means it is not the people who are unvaccinated who died. It is the people who are vaccinated who died. And I am very concerned that that is also a direction that they want to go. That means the vaccination that they want to give us is not for our benefit. It is basically to create havoc with our immune system. I mean, since I already mentioned this, I'm just going to add this one more point, right? So what actually happened, and again, this one is not in the Rose Eaker tree talk, but it's something that I want to highlight at this point in time, is that one thing about the coronavirus is that since the SARS inception, which I think is in 2003, over the last 20 years, about 20 years, they have been trying to find a vaccine for coronavirus. Okay, so far, they have been very unsuccessful, which means that they have found no way to create a coronavirus vaccine. Okay, in the tests that they have done so far, the results have been very scary, right? So this test was done where they inject a vaccine, their vaccine, on ferrets, which is a farm animals, Ferrets. After they inject the ferrets with the vaccine, nothing happened initially. But the moment they were exposed to the coronavirus, their body went into what we call a cytokine storm, which means that basically their immune system attacked itself. It's like an autoimmune condition, autoimmune disease, and it caused organ damage, and a lot of the ferrets start dying. So if that outcome happens in the trials animals, that outcome can also happen to us, right? And this is something that I think we have to be very concerned about. And part of the reason why the two talks are taking place also is that basically I'm recruiting people. For those of you who know, I've created a Facebook group. We have created a Facebook group, some of us, and some of you in this talk itself is in that group. I really want, everyone who know about it to really be on this group. And I think as a collective, we can try to see what we can do to solve. I think I think tyranny is not too strong a word, that's coming to us. Of course, I'm not advocating violence. I'm not advocating, things which is irrational, unreasonable. I think all I'm asking for is really our human right to choose, right? And that is actually a very good way to begin the presentation, right? So now I've gone into the whole rule secretary because the whole thing about how do we respond to this? If we know, hearing it is actually very frightening because, and of course I would, deep down inside, I really hope that in this one case, I'm totally wrong, right? That all my beliefs, all the things I read, all the things I know, all of it is wrong. Unfortunately, I cannot with conscience say that ever now, right? That means I know too much, and some of the things I know just make so much sense that the opposite of that is just not reasonable or rational anymore, right? So I have to stick with what I think is true and what I think is happening, and therefore I am sharing the message. Hopefully, more people can know the message. Okay, so coming back. So in order to, I think, respond to this properly, of course, I don't think fear is the answer, right? Obviously, getting you all afraid and frightened, oh, what are we going to do, and all this kind of thing, and start panicking, that's not a solution. So I think the solution itself is ultimately in two different forms, right? So the first form is that we must ultimately look at the internal parts of us that create the collective reality that we are seeing at this point in time. What is actually happening within us? What is the shadow part of us that's actually creating what we are seeing outside of us? And that is the subject or the topic of today's talk. The second talk, which is happening next Thursday, is about, because we can complain all we want, we can talk about, how things are not right. But I think if we don't understand why things are the way they are, how do humanity come into being, that means we must understand our enemies, right? Okay, enemies, I guess, in inverted comma, because later on I also say that, there's actually ultimately no true enemies, right? We are, it's all a role that everyone is playing. But for relative terms, we must know our enemies, we must know, how they come, or what's their modus operandi. And what is the, in order to create a new world, I think we must also have a vision of what that new world comprises of, right? So that will actually be the subject of the second talk. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to begin I'm going to start with the presentation. So a lot of you have probably watched or seen this photo being passed around. It's like it's this thing about the Great Awakening. So one thing I want to talk about Great Awakening is Great Awakening is used by this group called the QAnon. It's supposed to be this group that is Trump and QAnon related. And I'm going to talk more about the Trump and QAnon in the second talk, so I'm not going to go too much into details today. But Q was the one who first started this whole Great Awakening idea, right? So I'm just sort of like taking that term, right? It's not that I'm pro QAnon, I'm pro Trump, not at all. I'm just saying it's a great name, and and since I'm a Chinese and Chinese like to copy names, Chinese like to copy great ideas, so I'm copying the ideas, and I'm putting it into this as a subject matter. But I think this picture, the good thing about this picture is you can really get to see a lot of the different parts which if you are into supernatural, it's like a going to a candy shop and seeing all these sweets there and going gaga over all of them, right? Yeah. So there's all these different concepts and ideas. I won't be able to cover all of it, even in the two talks, but I would definitely be covering, different parts of it along the way during this period, lah. Yeah. Okay. Next. Yeah. So today I'll be covering some of this thing, which I would say the cosmology, God, universe, our ultimate purpose. I'll talk about this idea of the cycles of time, and this idea of the new Aquarian age. I'll go into the anatomy of what we call energy of physical bodies, the mind-body connection, how all of that is interconnected. We'll go into healing, what healing truly is, what is health. And I also talk about the inner transformation route, which is that, what is the process through which we go from being a human animal, which we actually are. We are not a human being. We are still, at least a majority, I think, are still a human animal, right? That means our neocortex, our human brain is basically just at the start of the evolution. Even though we would like to think we are very evolved, I think we have really just moved out of the animal mode, and we are still very much more animal than we are human. And I think the process of becoming human is actually what we are doing now. Because some people, like, some very well-known avatars like Buddha, Jesus Christ, and some of these people have probably gone beyond the human mode, right? I would say most of us are not even human, not to say superhuman, right? So I will be talking about what I will call the inner transformation roadmap of what man, or at least some of the milestones that you should see as you progress in this process of healing and becoming more of who you are. Yeah, so I'm going to start with the cosmology, which is about the whole, so we're going to start with the macro, which is the universe, the whole, some of you know the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without. So I'm going to start with the as above, which is the cosmology, the macro, and all this. So we sort of like start from how does the universe begin? What is the universe? What is God? How do we come into being? What are we really? What are we really? Right? Who are we? Right? So this one comes from the Tao Te Ching. Tao beget one beget two beget three, and three beget 10,000 things. So the Tao is supposed to be the unmoved mover, which is, they also say the unmanifest, the manifest, unmanifest reality, right? The reality that's unmanifested. And from that unmanifested reality, something manifests, which is what we call the one. And from that one, it becomes two. Two is the yin yang, the duality. The two begets the three, and the three is typically what we consider a trinity. Right? So in a lot of the religion, you will see that there's this trinity appear. Of course, if you're Christian, it's the Father, Son, God, Holy Spirit. If you are Hindu, it is the trinity of the Hindu gods, the Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. And Egyptian trinity, it will be the Osiris, Isis, Horus, right? So what we need to understand is there is what we call the law of three. The law of three means that the three is the energy that creates, right? So three is the creative energy. So three creates, seven organize, right? So later when we talk about the chakras and all these kind of things, we realize that seven is a number that organizes, three is a number that creates. And all of this is shown in also the Kabbalah, in the Tree of Life, which later I'll also go into. Yeah, so from that, so there's this whole idea of the ether, right? So I think we were just talking about, I was just talking with Herb the other night about how fundamentally there is this field of ether. So to really understand ether, we need to, maybe the first thing I would say is, on Earth we have what we call oxygen or air, right? So therefore it's not a vacuum. And we, people have said that once you go out to space, enter into a vacuum, which means that there is no energy, right? But is it really true? Of course it is not, right? Because even if you take away the air, and what they have done is they have actually reduced the temperature. It means basically they have reduced the vibration of matter. where it really go to so low, you will realize or find that it is still possible. In fact, they go to what we call the absolute 0 point, which is like minus 200 over degrees Celsius. And at that point in time, where the matter is supposed to stop vibrating, you will still find, oh, someone raised their hand. You will still find that there is still energy there. Okay, so maybe just to check, Randy, you want to say something, is it? Absolute 0, correct? 0 Kelvin. Yeah. Do you want to say something? Randy? Do you want to type it out in the chat first? Okay. Yeah. So maybe you can bring down your hand. Okay. So like I was saying, when they bring down the temperature to absolute 0, they find that there's still energy there, and it is not a small amount of energy. In fact, that amount of energy in one, what do you call that, like a light bulb, is enough to boil all the water of Earth. That means if you can just imagine something that you can hold in your hand, that size is enough to boil all the water on Earth. And that energy, different people have talked about it in 0 point energy, free energy. Actually, technically, it's not free energy, but 0 point energy. But it's basically the premise of how how free energy, anti-gravity, and all these things come about, which I will talk about more in the second talk. But so from that ether space, so ether itself is actually something that in science itself has been discredited. Means, science don't believe in it because of some experiment in the late 1800s. Because before late 1800s, they actually do believe very much in ether, and a lot of the technological advance, or at least advancement in knowledge, was based on the idea of ether. And then, some scientists came along, came up with a study at which then disapprove or disprove this whole ether theory, which obviously is not true. Ether is still there. And in fact, a lot of the so-called forces, right? I mean, Einstein has been trying to find this the unifying theory, right? In which you can unify things like gravity, things like electromagnetic frequencies, or electromagnetics, the strong force, the strong nuclear force, and the nuclear force. But they have not been able to do it. It's because they don't recognize ether, right? The moment they actually recognize ether and include it in their so-called study, then ether itself is basically a unifying force. It will unify all the different things, because basically the reason why there is a force in the first place is because something is moving through ether, and it therefore creates a force, right? And some of these ideas is basically the premise of how I say, free energy and all these things is created. Okay. So from that ether space, which is supposed to be a vacuum, but actually it's not a vacuum, there was a primordial sound, right? So in Hindu terms, they call this Om, right? So, I'm sure a lot of you have gone to yogas and you do this Om, so Hindus believe that was actually the primordial sound, and that sound itself was what created the universe. And I wanted to show you how it is actually possible for sound to create what we call form, or how it eventually creates sound, how ether creates sound and light and form, right? So let's talk about sound first, right? So primordial sound, there's this Om, and of course we recognize sound in terms of also musical notes, they call it diatonic and things like that. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, right? And then after that, we'll move to the next octave. They found that light itself is actually a frequency, which means it's basically a vibration. But it's moving so fast, the vibration, that it's moving at about 48 to 49 octave of sound, which means it is still sound, but it's moving at very large speeds. And the other thing that will also prove or show that sound moving at certain speeds can create light is this phenomenon of sonoluminescence, which you can actually Google and read more about. Basically, they put, I think, some water bubble in water, and then when you do something, when they speed it up to something, it starts to give off a light. Okay, I want to show you this thing about cymatics. I know, of course, some of you who is very experienced have already, studied this whole cymatics thing. But for the benefit of those people who have not, I'm just going to go and show another screen where I hope to show the YouTube video. Yeah. So I'm going to show you the YouTube video. Okay, so can all of you see this YouTube, or at least me trying to show this YouTube video, right? If you can see me at this YouTube video, maybe just put in the chat that you can see something that is correct, that you are seeing something on the thing.
Yes, we can see the video.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to start. Okay, so you see as the sound increases, it starts to move into certain patterns. And as they increase the vibration, it starts to form more and more complex patterns. Yeah, and you can see actually a lot of these things are things that aborigines talk about in dream time. If you see some of the dream time images, you can see some of these images in dream time. You can see some of these images in certain cave drawings. Obviously, they have some knowledge about sound that, or maybe they perceive sound in certain ways that we don't even know. Right? Okay, so I'm going to stop this because I think I made my points clear enough. So I'm going to move back to the presentation. And I'm going to go back slides. Yeah, so you can also see that actually if you look at electromagnetic spectrum, light itself is actually a very small part of the entire spectrum. Right? And all of this, of course, ultimately is all frequency, vibration, moving at certain. So you can see actually the whole universe itself is basically just vibration. And that vibration, as shown from the cymatics, once you reach a certain frequency, it starts to create forms. And what do these forms look like? Right? So they are what we call the 5 planetonic solids, which is the basic mechanism of form. Right? So these are the 5 basic forms, and everything else is, just combination of these forms. And over here, you can also see this idea of what we call in mathematics, the golden mean or Fibonacci sequence. Okay, so for some of you who are beginners to some of this, I know some of these things could be a lot of information. So that's why eventually at the end of the talk, I'll record this, I'll get emails from all of you, and you can have a copy of this. And if you're interested, you can always research and study a bit more of this. So what's the Fibonacci sequence? Is basically you can see 0, 1. It's adding up the numbers, in which 0 to 1, then you get 1, and then 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, and that's how it basically forms, which means you add up the 2 previous numbers in order to get the following number, and you divide the number, the number in front with the number behind, you will get a number that is very, very close to 1.618, which is what we call PHI, 5. I think this is a Greek alphabet. And this whole, what we call the golden mean ratio and all these things, you will see is actually present in all of nature, which therefore indicates, that the whole universe is actually created through vibrational form with a certain, mathematical. So mathematics is basically a language of how the vibrations manifest itself. Right? So mathematics is our way of calibrating or measuring how the vibration of frequency becomes physical. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next thing. So the next thing, of course, is why are we created at all? Right? I mean, why? Okay, so let's take as an assumption that there is something. Of course, theoretically, actually, no one can prove that God exists. I don't think anyone can. I mean, they can have experience of God. Does it mean that God exists? Or they can have an experience of oneness, but does that mean there's God? Right? So to me, all of this is very technical. So I'm going to share with you what I think is happening. I think the good news is there is something beyond the physical. We are eternal. Though I'm not sure whether that's a good thing. Okay, but anyway, we are eternal. There is, we are immortals. Some people believe that we are a soul, and so why do we come onto physical Earth? A lot of these things is actually talked about in this book called Conversation with God by Neil Donald Walsh. So for some of you, so for those of you who are listening in, because I don't have time to really type it out, for some of you who actually know the book, you can actually write down the title on the chat, for people's reference. There's this book called Conversation with God, and I really resonate a lot with it. And so I'm going to copy that, information from that book. What they say is actually God itself, God was a concept. Or at least it was, he's obviously consciousness. And somewhere along the way, he realized that so far, everything that he managed to do, he only knows via concept. He knows intellectually, that he's great, he's loving, he's kind, he's compassionate, he's brave, he's this wonderful being. But he has never physically experienced his greatness. So he realized that the only way, because there's only one, right, which later we're also going to talk about, because he's only one, the only way to truly experience himself is to pretend or break himself up into many, many different individuals, each pretending that they are not the one, so that they can actually experience how it is like to be kind and loving and compassionate. And the second thing is he realized that, I'm using he, but I could easily say she, right? She realized that yeah, so maybe I'll just mute. Okay, so maybe you can, so those of you can just mute yourself. Yeah, so she also realized that if she's already kind and loving and compassionate, how is it that she can experience it? Because then everyone is just going to be kind and loving to each other, right? So the only way that she can truly experience being loving and kind is to have its opposite present, which means that they must be a not loving or not kind in order to experience a loving and kind. And therefore the two exist. So at first there was one, that's why, the Tao Te Ching, right? From Tao begets a one, from one begets a two. But it realizes that it has to have two, the duality, in order to experience what it means. And that's how everything is created. In a way, we are the physical body of God. We are co-creators. We are the physical expression in which God can experience itself. And later when I go into some of the laws of creation, of the universe and all of these things, we'll go into maybe a deeper understanding of even what that means. Yeah? Okay, so before I go there, a lot of people like to talk about this whole thing about twin flames, monads, oversouls and all this. So what is all these things about, right? So actually, before I actually did this talk, I didn't know either, right? I mean, I have a vague idea, but I didn't really know, right? So I finally managed to, do some research, which is also one of the good things about speaking, is you are forced to do research. And I actually went into finding out, and I realized that, so this is actually how you progress from soul groups to monads to oversouls to souls. Okay, so we are going to start from the bottom, which means that each oversoul has 12 souls, which means that there are 6 pairs of twin flames. People talk about this twin flame as the opposite end of you. And so to understand that, at first, the first few races, we are the 5th race of humankind. That means before us, there were 4 different races, the Polarian, the Hyperborean, the Lemurian, and Atlantean, some of you have read. And we are the 5th race, which is iron. Right? So somewhere along the way, which I think happens in the Lemurian age, so before that, we were actually Aphrodites. Is that the right word? Hermaphrodites, which means that we have both the male and female organs. So therefore, we don't even have sex. We can just create because we have both parts, right? And during that period of time, we were split. I think, different theories. So some people say that it was, genetic engineering, that we were split, and, that was done by aliens and, whatever, right? But we just have to take that, we were split. And this split created this duality. And therefore, from then onwards, we will always try to find our opposite, right? And that's the idea of the twin flames. The twin flames, initially, we therefore were just souls, but eventually we were forced to become twin flames, because each twin flame make up, in a way, like, of course, in that sense, you can say it's 12 souls, but it used to be just 6 souls. but it was forced to become 12, right? So we just take it as 12 souls. So 12 souls are 6 pairs of twins. So each overcell has 12 souls. Each monad has 12 oversouls. And so therefore, you can see in each monad, there are 144 souls altogether. 12 times 12, right? And then a soul group is made out of 144,000 monads. So 144,000 times 144, that is one soul group. So currently, right now, there are 2,135 soul groups on Earth. If you calculate, which I did, it came out to about 7 billion. Is it about 7 plus billion? Or maybe more than that. Okay, I can't remember. But it's definitely more than the beings on Earth. Then I think, okay, whoever created this theory probably got and calculated, and that's how it came out in the soul groups. Okay, I don't know. But so the idea of this is that maybe some of these soul groups may not even be human as well, right? And so later when we talk about evolution of beings, right, we may find that it's not just humans that have souls, because certain animals have it as well. Or some animals also have what we call a hive mind, which is a soul made out of many different individuals in physical form, right, which later I'll talk about. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Yeah, in fact, this is so along the way, the evolution of the soul is that we start from very basic rudimentary awareness, like minerals and crystals. In fact, maybe even before that is all the elements, right? So elementals and all these kind of things. And then we gradually start to gain awareness or consciousness. And then we start to evolve into things which are considered lower animals. Oh, I forgot plants, sorry. So it's actually minerals and crystals, plants, then the insects, all the animals. And somewhere along the way, what will happen is that, okay, a lot of these insects, you'll find that actually they behave as a hive mind. If some of you who have gone diving or have gone snorkeling, you see that when fishes move, they tend to move as a whole. It doesn't seem like it seems like there's a collective. They seem to move collectively. And the truth is, it is because each individual fish is part of this one soul that so all these different fishes is basically part of one soul, or one being that has a consciousness that controls all the creatures altogether. So the same with bees, it's the same with ants, right? So that's why you sometimes see ants tends to move as a collective. They tend to work together, right? Bees as well. So a lot of the lower animals like insects and all these things, they work based on a hive mind. And somewhere along the way, different people say different things, but typically they believe that the first, separation in which we become individuated, which means we become what we can consider individual soul, is at the point of mammals. Which means when the limbic brain, which later I'll talk about the different brains available, right? So the emotional brain, the moment the emotional brain came into being, our individuality begins. So before the limbic brain, basically we are not a soul, or at least we are not a soulful soul, if there's such a term, right? We cannot really feel emotion. We are more instinctive than we are able to feel. And that's why you can see a lot of the higher mammals actually show a lot of empathy, compassion. It's because they have a soul. They are able to feel. Because the only way to feel is to have a soul. And in fact, that's the reason why they're so interested in us, aliens and all this, because we have a soul container. And the soul is what they want from us. Yeah, scary stuff. Yeah, okay, but let's go to the inspirational stuff. Okay, so eventually we move from the from all these different things, and the individuation will become stronger and stronger. We start to develop what we call ego, and which is where we are stuck at now, man. And eventually, man will become what we call angels. But when we say angels, I don't mean the angels that we typically say, the archangels, like Archangel Michael and all these things, because we actually fall from angels. That means we used to be angels, and then I think all of us, in fact, I would think, yeah, I can just think that actually all of us are basically fallen angels, right? And what's the difference between an angel and a man or a human, right? Is that angels must always submit to the will of God or the source or whatever they call it. They don't have free will. They cannot choose. So because they are so connected to God, right? So whatever God or whatever the higher will wants, they always will obey, which is obviously not something that men do, right? So men have a free will in the sense that we get a response of what we think the higher will wants, but we can choose to obey or not. We can choose to do it or not. So when I say the evolution of the soul is eventually to become angel, I mean a higher man, a higher angel, which means that we will choose to follow the higher will, not because we are forced to, not because we are compelled to, not because we have to, not because like angels we have no choice, but because we can choose, but yet we choose the higher will. Right? So eventually that is I think the ultimate goal, or what differentiates Jesus from us, is that the higher man or the angelic being or enlightened being, they always know what the higher will is, and they will choose it voluntarily every single time. And of course, that choice will always stem from love, right? Because again, some of you will know that there's basically two duality of emotion. The first one is love. The second one is fear. Ultimately, of course, it is still love, right? So love begets love and fear, which is again 1 move to 2, and from love and fear, all the other subsequent emotions are created. So so man is always choosing between love and fear, and a higher man is the one that always chooses love every single time, in every single action, in every single thought, right? So if you are able to choose love all the time, basically you don't have to, you're enlightened. There's nothing else to do, right? Obviously, the fact that we're still on Earth, with this mess is we basically still have some way to go, right? Okay. So let's talk about the Kabbalah. Okay, I'm not the expert in Kabbalah. This actually comes from AJAC. I'm part of a mystery school. Some of you here are as well. I don't need to name names, but some of you know who you are, right? So in the AJAC, okay, so just to mention, right, I am part of this mystery school, but I am sovereign individual, which means that I don't subscribe to everything in the AJAC school, mystery school. But I would think that they actually have a lot of useful information. And one of the really good useful information that I've learned actually is the Kabbalah. And Kabbalah states that, there's this thing called the tree of life. And you can see it's made out of 10. Okay, I'm not going to go into the technical details of it. But you can see over here, there is this, what we call the tree, the laws, the tree. And over here is a 7. And Malkuth is a kingdom, which means basically this is a physical realm. This is a physical realm. And this is a 7. This is what we call the energetic body, vital body. And later I'll go into the different energy bodies, the astral body, the mental body, eventually the causal body, the Buddhic emic body, and this is the Holy Trinity. And eventually the goal that we want to is to become Ein. Ein is God, right? So we are now Ein Sof. And eventually, if we don't reach Ein, we will drop to Ein Sof Af. That means if you are failed experiment, to put it in some way. That means if you didn't manage to achieve the oneness or to go back to source, you will actually end up being Ein Sof Af out, instead of Ein. And our goal is eventually to move into the higher, to become the higher being. Right. Yeah, so I'm just going to go there. Now the next thing I want to talk is, what are the different laws of the universe you need to know? Okay, obviously there are many, many different laws. I'm not going to, talk about all of them. But for the sake of discussion, we'll go into the different laws. So the first law is the law of creation, right? The law of creation says that, we are created, we create through thoughts, words, and deed, right? In fact, we are always creating. And whatever we create itself is always manifesting, which means that everything that we see basically is our creation. There's nothing else. There's no one else creating for you. And whatever you create, if you are not happy with it, it's up to you to discreate it. There's no one else out there that's going to discreate for you. Not God, not anyone else. Whatever you have created, you have to discreate on your own, right? Okay. The next law is the law of attraction. The law of attraction states that like attracts like, right? Which means that whatever you draw, whatever you think based on creation, right? Whatever you thought, whatever word you say, whatever deed you do, will attract to you the light or the equivalent. It means if you think, if you are fearful, right, you will start to attract that, even though that is not what you want. But when you are thinking of it, you basically put energy to it, and it will, through your energy of thinking, you are basically attracting, right? And so in a very simple form, in law of attraction, right, there's no such thing as no. There's no such thing as, I don't want it, I don't want it, don't come to me, don't come to me. Because the more you say don't, it will respond only to your thoughts, not to your, the more you think about it, basically you are attracting it to you. Okay, this is still about cause and effect. Okay, some people have said, karma and all this kind of thing, but to me, there is actually more to it. Cause and effect just states that whatever you do, whatever work you do, the consequence will always follow, right? Whatever you do to, another way of putting it is, whatever you do to another, you one day experience, or, what comes around goes around, right? But unlike what some people think that is a punishment, I don't think it's a punishment. And in order to understand why it's not a punishment, I'm going to go into the fourth law, which is the personal universe law. Okay, so in order to understand the personal universe law, I'm going to stop sharing this, because I'm going to share the other screen. Okay, I'm going to go to the egg story. Okay, the egg story is something you can actually Google and read about. Some of you, I think, read it. I'm just going to very briefly summarize it. It's supposed to be a fiction, but there's a lot of truth to it. There's this guy who got hit by a car. He died. He went to heaven. He met God. And he was just talking to God, and he says, "So what is going to happen now?" God says, "Oh, you'll be reincarnated." The guy said, "Oh, okay, that means the Hindus are right." Okay, and as they were walking and talking, the guy became curious and says, "Where am I going next, right? I mean, where am I going to be reincarnated?" And God says, "Oh, you're going to be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. And this guy said, "Huh? Am I going back to the past?" He says, "Yeah, there's no past, present, future. Every is all just there. So of course you have been there in the past, right?" And yeah, so he said, "Oh, if I get reincarnated to other place, I must have iterated myself at some point, right?" And he says, "Yeah, that's that's true." And he says, "So what's the purpose of it? Why are we doing this? Why am I reincarnating over and over again, right?" And he said, the reason why, and I want you just to read the last few part, because this last few part is really, I think, the essence of this story, right? Okay, so he says, "Oh, the purpose of it is to mature, right?" And he said, "And the reason why I make this whole universe is just for you, just you. I made this whole universe for you, right? With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect." He said, "Just me? What about everyone else?" "Oh, there's no one else. In this universe, there's just you and me. But all the people on earth, right, they're all you. So they're everyone. So they were Abraham, so he's Abraham Lincoln, he's John Wilkes Booth, he's Hitler, he's Jesus. And basically, every time you victimize someone, you are victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was or will be experienced by you." Okay. So I'm just going to go back to my, and I just want you to sink in with the idea, right? Just sink in with the idea, right? So I hope that explains the cause and effect actually very well, which is, at the end of the day, it's just you. You have been, every single sand in the sea, every drop in the water, every crystal, every plant, every leaf, every insect, and every animal, reptile, human, and still more to go. You are probably all the aliens. You are, everything. There's nobody else, nothing else. And so therefore, because it is just you and the whole personal universe is created by you, basically even the Illuminati was created by you. That's such a, okay, I'm not going to push the responsibility to you all. It's also created by me, right? So I, in all my different forms, have created this mess, right? So it is up to all of us to discreate it. There's no one else. Yeah? And I just want to add one more thing to the personal universe idea, right? Which means that basically who you are right now, right? Because a lot of people talk about this thing that, "Oh, I want this to be my last life. After this last life, I don't want to come back anymore." Maybe the truth is, maybe you don't have to come back to Earth. But if you say, "Oh, I don't want to have any more life it's impossible, because unless you say, and in fact, I would say, to say that you are not coming back to Earth, unless you are saying that you are not the most enlightened, unless you are saying that you are the most enlightened and evolved being that has ever been born on Earth, it's also impossible, right? Which means that I probably still have a million, billion more lives to go, right? And it sounds quite depressing. The moment I hear, oh shucks, okay, but anyway, if I think that Jesus Christ is more enlightened than me, that means I will be crucified somewhere along the way, right? Not a happy thought. Okay, but anyway, coming back, right? So, unity and polarity. So one thing which I think I already mentioned, we are both the one, we are also the two, and there is also this idea of divine dichotomy, which means that it is possible to be contradicting yourself. It is possible to be, at a certain level of at a certain level, you can see certain reality. At another level, at the absolute level, you can see one reality. At the relative level, you see another reality. And both reality are totally possible and okay, right? And personification means that every single being, every single thing in the universe can be personalized, which means that you can, therefore, have a relationship with a tree. You can have a relationship with a stone. You can have a relationship with insects, because all of them are persons. And this personification is also important, because then you also see, that there's nothing, you don't harm anything, because they're all basically persons, which means they are basically you, based on the personal universe idea. They're all you. If you mess up if you even kill an animal, you are basically killing yourself eventually, right? And finally, last one is this idea of correspondence. Correspondence means that there's, like I mentioned, this different octave of level, and these different levels have a certain frequency and correspondence, right? So for those people who are into astrology, right? So if you talk about the planets, so the planets correspondence, have a certain crystal that's relating to that planet. There's a certain color corresponding to that planet. There's a certain symbol corresponding to. So all of these things are what we call correspondence. And later, the correspondence idea will be important when we go into the healing component, because the reason why we are able to heal using different objects and items is actually because of the correspondence principle. That means because of the law of attraction, this whole thing about frequency and vibration, you want to find a frequency match. Yeah. And okay, so I'm going to move on. Okay, so what is our ultimate purpose? Again, this one is drawn from Conversation with God. There's only one purpose in life, and that is to decide and to declare, to create and to express, to experience and to fulfill who you really are, and to recreate yourself anew in every moment in the grandest version of the greatest vision ever you had about who you really are. Okay, one thing we know is that there's no time, right? And because there's no time, basically every moment is fresh. Every moment is fresh means that every moment, whatever you think and decide is about will. The moment you will, okay? And this is an experiment you can also do, right? Especially if you have meditated before. What you can do is when you meditate and you start to see what is controlling you or what is actually within you, you realize that at the end of the day, there is you can observe your finger and you can feel all these sensations moving through the finger. And you can try to observe it moving, but you will not be able to move it until you will yourself to move it. Okay, try this experiment. In fact, you can try it. Let me see, you can just go to any part of your body. You can just feel into that part of the body. And you realize that if you don't will it to move, or you don't decide, another way to say will is to decide. If you don't decide to make it move, it will move. Of course, some people will say, hey, sometimes I have spontaneous movement, or I will just, my body will just do things which are natural. But at some level, there is a higher will that is deciding for you, right? And so in a way, it is still deciding. So to decide and to declare, which means you first have to decide who you are. And then to declare means you vocalize it, you verbalize it, because words have power, right? The moment you actually, it's just like when God created the universe, he owned it to creation. So when you decide and then you declare, the moment you declare, whatever you speak of becomes reality. Yeah? And then to create and to express and to experience, and later I'll show you the whole chain of who you really are. which means that a lot of people who ask me, so what is my purpose, right? Your purpose is whatever you decide it to be. And whatever purpose you decide to be, is it the grandest version of the greatest vision ever? If it is not the grandest version or the greatest vision ever, then change the vision again, right? Which means you are always constantly recreating yourself in the moment of now into the next grander version of who you are. And that's basically life. You are evolving by making greater and greater, or you are remembering more and more of the greatness of who you are, and you then come up with a new vision of who you are. And the moment you start to think about it and decide that you want it, it will start to come into your experience, right? So all these things can be summarized is in this whole process of what you think you create, what you create you become, what you become you express, what you express you experience, what you experience you are, and what you are you think, and the cycle completes. So basically this is the flow. And again, I didn't count all this, right? So all these things come from conversation God. So now I'm finally done with the first part of the thing, which is the macro, right? It talks about the universe, the universal laws, and all these things. And that is the framework through which then we can talk about our own individual thing. Because if you don't talk about law of creation, then you don't even know that, oh yeah, your words and deeds, or your thoughts, words, and deeds is the one that creates ultimately everything, including our physical body. And we can't even talk about health, mind-body connection, and things like that, right? So this is actually, the first part is really to set the tone for the subsequent aspects. So I'm going to go a little bit faster because I realize, okay, so this part is about the cycle of time. So the cycle of time is important because one thing we have to understand is that we think that we are individual, and therefore whatever is happening to us individually is just individual, which is not true. We are a human being living on Earth, which is moving through the sun as a solar system, which is moving through a greater sun, which later I'll talk about. So all these cycles of time, of universal movement itself, will impact us as individuals because we are a micro that is flowing through the macro. And this is actually articulated in the Hindu cycle by what we call the Brahma cycle. The life of Brahma is very, very long. So you can see the life of Brahma is 311.04 trillion years, and all these things can be divided into what we call the Yuga cycles. And this Yuga cycle, we see on the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze and Iron Age, which is just one moment of this one moment of this one moment. So it's not even one day. Because this whole cycle is not even one day of the life of Brahma. And Brahma in his lifetime is supposed to live 100 years. And we're not even living one day of, this whole cycle is not even one day of the Brahma, which really bring into, stark contrast, how we are such a minute component of the whole universe, right? Okay, so the next part I want to talk about is the precession of equinox. And over here, I'm going to go into certain things which, because this whole precession of equinox and this whole idea of even the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age there are a lot of different theories about it. So I'm going to tell you what I think is happening, which I think makes sense, and you are free to decide on your own because there are different cycles. Like, let's say, for example, over here, right? You can see they think of the Golden Age as very long and the Iron Age as very short. Okay, nowadays I don't believe in this. So this idea I'm saying I don't think it's true. I'm actually subscribing to the precession of the equinox idea. Okay, so to understand this, it's quite technical, but let me put it this way, right? Let's say you are at the northern or southern hemisphere, right? And in our astrological cycle, we always say, March 20th is the start of Aries, right? Which means that if you look into the horizon, the rising sun on the March 20th, the rising sun will rise over Aries by right? But actually right now it's no longer rising over Aries. It's now rising over what they call Pisces, or some people will say we are very entered into Aquarian age. So therefore the star that the sun rises, the morning sun rises, is actually over the star of Aquarius, which means what actually happens is that the Earth, over time as it rotates, this precession circle will shift or move. And this movement itself will change 1 degree every 72 years, which means that because there are 12 different so-called constellations, and each constellation therefore takes up 30 degrees. Therefore, one age, that means when it passes through one constellation, is supposed to be 2,160 years. 72 times 30 degrees, right? 2,160 years. If you take that as 12 different constellations, the whole cycle is 25,920 years, which means that 25,920 years is one cycle, okay? And this 25,920, okay, now I'm subscribing to the notion that actually this thing of 1 degree per 72 years is not totally accurate. That means there are some times in which we speed up and sometimes we slow down. So actually this whole cycle itself actually happens over 24,000 years. Okay, so remember 24,000 years, okay? So 24,000 years we will pass through golden age, silver age, iron age, and bronze age. Golden, silver, bronze, and iron age 2 times. Which means 24,000 years can be divided into 2, which means that 12,000 years, so every one cycle of golden, silver, bronze, and iron is 12,000 years. And in the 12,000 years, we will divide it in 2 equally. That means it's just like spring, summer, autumn, winter, right? It should be equal. Therefore, golden age will last for 3,000 years, silver 3,000, bronze 3,000, and iron 3,000. And based on that new theory, we will no longer look at this. We will actually look at this, and based on this, the ascending Kali age, which means Kali age is basically the iron age. The ascending Kali age means we will leave Kali on the worst of the age. Okay, because we just explain the 4 ages, right? So golden age is when people are enlightened, or people are generally very spiritual. The silver age is when things start to get corrupted, and of course things get worse until in iron age, basically we're no longer spiritual, we're just totally material. But the reason why I put this cycle is because the golden age will move through this cycle. So this whole cycle itself, therefore, is 24,000 years, right? We'll pass through the golden age, which is 3,000 years, silver age, bronze, iron, and then there's the ascending Kali. So 2025, therefore, will be at this point where the ascending Kali age, we will move into the bronze age, which is a better age, obviously, than the dark age, right? And this will happen in 2025. Okay, right now is 2020, which means that in 5 years' time, we will leave the dark age and enter into a new age. Okay, and this 2025, remember this number, because this number is important, because the next point I'm going to make is that we will pass through this whole 12,000, of course they put here 11,000 years. Let's just look at 12,000. This whole cycle itself, our solar system also passes through what we call our great central sun. So we actually pass part of the Palladian system, or the Palladian constellation, and our sun is actually moving through the greater sun. So this is the great central sun. And this great central sun, when we pass through certain age, when we are closer to this great central sun, we are spiritual. When we are further away from it, we become less spiritual. Therefore, we go into the dark ages. So therefore, this microcycle, this macrocycle is also influencing us. In fact, that's the reason why we go through that, the 4 ages. And now let's look back at 2025. Okay, so there's this idea of the empire philosophy. So this guy came to this theory that every empire will go through 6 stages. And these 6 stages will last 250 years. And we are going to use US as an example because, I mean, everyone will recognize or believe at least that over the last 250 years, basically US is in charge, or UK, depending on how you define it, right? But every empire will go through 6 stages in which there's a pioneering period, they conquest, there's all this commerce, and in the first 5 stages, basically people are moving, of course in the first few stages, it's a very pioneering, adventurous kind of thing, and then gradually they start to stabilize themselves, which is, again, you can consider this a normal cycle, and then eventually they will decay, they will go into decadence. Decadence is when people will start to forget about why they, how they came to where they are. Right? They became complacent. They start to look at games only. They start to look at Korean dramas because that's the only thing that's worth looking at. They start to look at things of no vital importance. Okay, I'm not judging. Right? I watch Korean dramas too. It's nice, right? But not just Korean dramas, right? I mean, life is more than just Korean dramas, right? But for some people, obviously, life is just Korean dramas. But eventually, they'll get to this decadence age, and that's when, eventually, a new empire will come into being. Right? And every single empire has never passed 250 years. So if we take US as an example, okay, US became independent in 1776. So when you take 250 years and you add 1776 to it, it is exactly 2026. So just now I mentioned this one, right? 2025, right? Okay, this one say 2026, right? Okay, now let's look at the third one. Okay, the third thing is thanks. This one comes from Andrea, so I have to thank Andrea for giving me that information. He posted this thing about the fourth turning. It was a book written by these two authors, and he talks about how we are going to go through these 5 stages, and eventually these 5 stages will be over until 2025. Can you see how all of it tends to come together? Which means that from 2020 to 2025, this 5 years is, in a way, the most important period of our life. In fact, I dare say that every single one of you and me has come onto Earth for these 5 years. Everything that we have lived for, everything that we have learned, everything that we have been private to, the information or knowledge that we've been private to, is because we are supposed to be here over these 5 years to hopefully do something, pass out from the iron age and move to a better age, right? Yep. So it will pass through these different 5 stages. So you can read for yourself, right? Then this whole COVID-19 martial law, and then there'll be a whole loss of trust in the silver bodies, which means government, right? And eventually there'll be a financial collapse or social collapse. There'll be a revolution, possible war, which could be a World War III, and then eventually we'll move into a rebuilding stage. Yeah. The World War III part I'll go into more in the second talk. So now I'm going to, okay, so now that we've gotten the more macro things our way, let's now go into the micro. So now finally we have gone into the micro, right? So the micro, this one for some of you who recognize it, basically is a natal chart. So I'm going to just continue the time idea. So we are moving through time, and because we are moving through time, at the moment that we are born, the planet's energy imprint itself on our astral body, which then forms our destiny, our purpose, right? And all these things can be read by astrologists, because all these things basically is a blueprint of who you are, right? It does not decide or determine who you are because you decide, but it gives you certain inclination. It tells you, your past life, what has happened, what you are here to work through, all these different ideas. Okay, I'm just going to read through the chat just to make sure that I didn't miss any questions. Okay, so if I'm missing any important question, please just really highlight to me, right? So I just, so maybe at this point in time, I'll just pause a quick while, right? Anybody got anything to ask or add to it? If you have anything to add, you can unmute yourself and just share, or maybe raise your hands and share. If anyone wants to say something, up to now, if things are not clear, if you want to ask anything, before I move on to the micro aspects, because I probably have about 50 minutes, and I hope to finish it also in this 50 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So far I didn't see anything. It's not yet. Check any. Solar flash. Okay. FJ, you want to talk about solar flash? Okay. Solar flash. Actually, I want to talk about it in the. Okay, Ken, I will talk about the solar flash. But FJ, okay, I don't want. I think I said enough. FJ, can you speak? Can you unmute yourself and speak about the solar flash? Tell us more. Sorry for arrowing. Yes, FJ, please unmute yourself and talk about solar flash.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Go on.
Actually, I was expecting Darius to talk about solar flash, but I haven't been following much lately, but I guess some of you are aware of this, or for those of you not so much aware. Basically, there's been this theory or hypothesis that the sun cycles has been reaching a minimum for the past few years, and the end game is that when the sun goes into this cycle that we call it solar flare, right? It will alter the consciousness of mankind. And apparently, throughout history in other parts of this galaxy, right, it is a recurring phenomenon, meaning that as civilizations reach a certain stage, or after a certain time, right, spiritual evolution will dictate that the sun, right, will go through a solar flare. And when this solar flare happens, right, it will, for those people who are, how do I say, ready, that means they are more spiritually inclined or whatever, right, it will evolve to the next stage of evolution. So there have been different theories going about it, and the military and the government, those black ops programs, right, they are aware of this, and they have been tracking it, and they have sent some like remote viewers to view the certain possible future, and the ones they saw, at least in certain timelines, is that the solar flare actually caused a lot of physical destruction and stuff. But then the interesting thing is that some other remote viewers, right, who viewed it, they saw a positive future. So it's interesting that they are differing timelines, and I suspect it's due to the spiritual inclination or the mindset of the remote viewer or the groups who are viewing it. So the solar flare, I'm not sure about the timeline now, but I believe it's just a few years off from now, within this next 5 to 10 years. So I think you will be in for a very interesting ride. And this also gives everyone a good time to spiritually evolve more. Get ready for the Big Bang. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks actually. Yeah, so maybe just to add to some of that. I didn't talk about solar flare because actually some of you can also read the remote viewer. There's this guy called Ed Dance. He talked about this thing called a Q shot. So some of the remote viewers, what they have done is that when they look into the future, which they can, they see certain alternative future, or they see certain timeline in which there's what they call a Q shot. This Q shot is a situation in which the great central sun, I think, emit out a large blast, and that because the great central sun influence our sun, so then that impact the sun. So it's actually a double sun phenomenon, which means the great central sun affect the central our sun, and that our sun then emits our solar flare, which will take up a lot of things, right? So some people say, it's linked to planet X, highly Colobus, the Anunnaki are coming back, that we will pass through certain things where the gravity of that force will cause a shift in our orbits. It will, because for example, during the Atlantean times, actually one thing I also didn't mention is, if you look at 12,000 years, right? 12,000 years is actually the official time in which Atlantis sank was actually 9,600 BC. So if you look at 9,600 BC and you add, the 2020, basically it is about 11,600 years ago. And of course, the Atlantis, if some of you have actually tracked the whole story, the 9,600 BC is actually the final sinking. Before that, there was actually supposed to be two other, major disaster, and the third one was one that took them out completely. If that's the case, then that whole process probably took about 12,000 years, right? Which means, in a very interesting way, we are right now at the 12,000 year mark again. Or maybe at least for the next 400 years, we are at the 12,000 year mark again, which means very likely, because cycles repeat, we are facing a similar dilemma. And again, some of these things I'll be talking about in the second talk, when we go into the more, this whole cycle of the reincarnation, how we have come back in physical form, experiencing the same thing over and over again, right? So yeah, some parts of that I will also cover in the second talk. Yeah, so of course, some of these things I also talk about in the Revelation, in the Bible. It's talked about in Nostradamus, and certain different prophecies have talked about it. Even the mystery schools have talked about it. That's why the Illuminati knows about it, because they are also basically whatever information we have, they know, right? They also talk about Vatican having secret libraries that has all this different information out there, right? Okay, so anyway, I'm going to move on because we can talk about all this fascinating stuff for for a long, long time. But I think I will just keep to the main gist of the discussion. So the next part I'm going to talk about is the anatomy of the energy body. which, like I mentioned before, there's three create 7 organizers. So the tree itself is the 3 major nadis, and the 7 chakras is the one that organizes. I think for most of you, right, I assume most of you will probably know enough about chakras. I'm not going to go into all the details about what chakras are, Okay, maybe briefly, right? So chakras are basically vortexes of energy. They are also at the sites of what we call our glands, our endocrine glands, and they organizes energy in the sense that they take a higher frequency energy and they will downstep it to energy that our body can use or utilize. And so we have the crown chakra, the brown, the throat chakra. These 3 are the higher chakras. These 3 are what we call the lower chakras, again, relatively speaking. And the heart chakra is the one that connects all of it. And later I'll be talking about Kundalini. The Kundalini part is actually very important in the inner transformation part, and how eventually it will move up. And different people have said different things. Some people say that the crown chakra is where it needs to go. Some people say it has to go to the crown chakra and eventually go back to the brown chakra before it works totally. Some people say it has to go from the Kundalini all the way up and then all the way back down to our solar sorry to our solar chakra before solar plexus chakra before everything goes back. So this is the different chakra system, what they control and things like that. Every chakra relates to one aspect of us, and basically this all will then control or determine who we are as a person. Each chakra tends to open every 7 years. So in the first 7 years, we are just focusing on security, survival. Next 7 years, the teenage years, we are focusing on relationship, emotion. This one is the independence part. 4th part is, we start to build family relationship, which is about the heart. The next 5 years, 35 to 35, is when we start to focus on our career, our purpose. The next 7 years is we start to look at, making decisions, being intuitive, insights. And the last 7 years, which is until 49 years old, is when we are supposed to become spiritually connected to a higher source. So if nothing goes wrong, if we have evolved properly, then by the age of 49 years old, we should have fully opened up all our chakras, theoretically, right? If there's no GMO, if there's no 5G, if there's no vaccine, dumping us down, probably. But right now, anybody who is able to reach here by 49 is amazing. Yeah, I think, the 3 main, precisely. The 3 caddices, the staff of Hermes, all these kind of things. So basically a symbolic thing as well. I think somebody raised their hands. Did somebody raise their hands? Okay. Can I go on? Okay, sorry. Yeah, maybe you can just type out in the chat first. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. So, so this is the part about the 3 brains, right? So again, there are 3 brains that we are. I mean, at this point now, I'm just going to go into all the different theories about humans or what humans are. We look at it from the energetic perspective, we look at it from the brain perspective, we look at it from, and later I'm going to bring them together when we come to the healing part about it as well. So we have the 3 brains. The first brain is what we call brainstem, which is the reptilian part of us. The limbic brain is the emotional part of us, and the neocortex is our true brain. The brainstem is also stored mainly in the gut, which means it's our gut instinct. And the limbic brain is basically, I think, our heart, and then the neocortex is, physically in our physical brain, right? Yeah, and of course, in the machine school, they also talk about this idea of human machine, which actually is the same, right? So this is basically the intellect, which is the neocortex. This is the emotional brain, and this is our, instinctive reptilian brain. But the 5 centers basically say is, we are a human machine. We have 5 centers. Each of these centers function differently. My motto is movement, instinctive, instincts, and sexual. Yeah, sexual energy is the interesting part as well, because that's the one that fuels actually all the other energies, all the other centers, as well as the energy centers. And in fact, how they shame us in terms of sexuality and all this is also something that we'll talk about, part of it in this talk, and also it's part of it in the next talk. Okay, I also want to talk about this idea of the soul types. So there's actually 7 different soul types, which means that we are all part of one of this. We take on, again, one of the expression. Each of us usually have one main dominant part in one of these things. Really, servers are interested in serving. So they are the one that, becomes the nurses, becomes the waitresses, becomes the, people who serve others. Artisans are, of course, artists, the musicians, the artists, the visual arts. The warrior basically are the people who are administration. Right? They, of course, also sports. The priest is linked to the spiritual aspect of us. Sage is our communicators. They talk. They're the salesperson. Kings are the leaders. And scholars are basically the one that study, research. And all of us are part of it. And you can see this is the percentage of it, supposedly, of it in the world. And of course, each chakra represents one. I think each planet represents one. So it really depends on what we are. Of course, it doesn't mean that, if you are a priest, we cannot also have expression of scholar and all these things, but there is a dominant expression of who we are. And that also determines, therefore, that also determines, therefore, like what we are supposed to do in life, right? Because if you are a king and you're trying to be a scholar, you'll be very miserable, right? So we basically have to, in a way, part of this has to do with our purpose, our destiny. Like, what are we supposed to be here for? We really, I mean, at some level, knowing what our soul types is really will determine what we are supposed to be here for, right? Okay, next one I want to talk about, of course, is multiple intelligence. This is I'm sure a concept a lot of you have read about. And again, you can actually, put a lot of them into the same category as here, right? So obviously, if you are, interpersonal, you're good in language, linguistic, and all these kind of things, you'll probably be a sage, right? So again, each of these represents some of the soul types, and we are just sort of like, I'm just giving the different ideas of how actually, if you really look deeply into it, they're all interconnected. And I think having a holistic view of all of these things will then allow you to see, oh, actually, even the Myers-Briggs, if you really look at MBTI, all these things, again, you can start to put them together into many of these things. Yeah. The next one I want to talk about is soul age idea. The soul age idea is the idea that, we look at people and we wonder, I'm sure some of you have. I mean, sometimes I also, try to look at people and say, how can people be so dumb? Right? How can people be so ignorant? Right? Okay. Or even if we try to argue with people, right? We try to say certain things, we try to explain to them, this thing is not good for you and all these things, and then they insist on their way. And you realize after a while, I mean, if you are under the old soul, you realize it's time to let go. Let them be, accept, be at peace, right? Yeah, and large part of that actually is because different souls are at different levels of development, and different levels of development therefore will determine what kind of concepts and ideas they have. And a higher soul, an older soul will always understand somebody of a lower soul. Okay, again, there's no judgment. It's just like saying, primary school, secondary school, university, I'm not judging anything, right? I mean, you're just different levels of evolution, right? But somebody who's older will tend to be able to understand things which younger soul experience and be able to encompass that worldview or that beliefs into that system, which means therefore they're more accepting. So one sign actually of evolution, to me, in fact, the only sign of evolution, the major sign of evolution is how many perspectives can you hold at one point in time? How many that means are you able to see at one point in time all the different perspectives of all the different people involved? Because like we say, we're all one, right? So the moment, if you can see the perspective of every single being in every situation at every moment itself, that is the most evolved soul, right? So the same thing happens in interaction. The most evolved soul in the interaction is the one that can see the most perspective. They can see everyone's perspective the most. Yeah. Okay. But I'm just going to go into the each one of them again in brief. You can always Google and read more about this. I don't know whether I have one. Yeah. Okay, I didn't have one. Actually, in fact, each soul also tends to be born at certain places. So the idea of infant soul is infant souls are only interested in very basic stuff, right? Food, sex, what else? Shelter, to them, they have no original thought. To them, everything is physical. They are just interested in very physical, basic needs, right? And even at the infant soul, it's very hard for them to feel emotion. And then you move to the baby soul. So baby soul is when they start to develop emotional ideas. So infant soul, generally, you can find that in very primitive society, right? Tribal organizations and things like that. Of course, some of the tribal organizations are very evolved as well, right? So it again depends, right? But very warlike tribal communities, very self-centered. Basically, infant souls are very self-centered. The baby souls are souls who are very conventional. They are, to them, what is important? Family, loyalty, being a good citizen of the country, right? And the baby souls, they are law-abiding. They follow laws. And one of the major things about baby souls are, to them, everything is very black and white. It's either right or wrong, good or bad, right? There's very little middle ground, right? So it's like, in brief, it's like my way or the highway, right? So you either agree to me or you're against me, right? So again, many of these souls are born in countries like, okay, can I say it? Maybe Middle East, right? Or country where, like, maybe in the US, it'll be the Texas, the rednecks, some of this, right? So they are generally the baby souls, right? And then we move to the young souls. You can see young souls is basically a dominant soul at this point in time, right? So we are currently right now in the young soul society. Young souls is about achievement. It's about money. It's about fame, fortune. It's about what can I achieve. So at the young infant soul stage, they are very concentrated on self-centered. But at the young soul level, it's not just about myself for myself, but it's really more about, like, how much can I achieve? It's like testing my boundaries. How far can I go, right? And so young soul is all about, achievement. And of course, when you look at young souls, where are they born right now? A lot of them, I think, in China. In fact, China, I think a lot of it is baby. But okay, young souls will probably be, I would say, Singapore, I would say Hong Kong, some of the more, I would say, some of the developing to developed countries, the countries that is almost developed, right? And then you have the mature souls. The mature souls tends to be in Europe. They're the ones that start to look at the more global picture. They start to be more interested in environmentalism, in LGBT issues. They're interested in things like, justice, poverty, elevation. Basically, most of us, us as in people who are interested in supernatural, spiritual, are either already in the mature or in the old soul stage, right? So these are people who are concerned about the world. To them, it's no longer just about them. There's something more to life, and they start to move into more service-oriented outlook. Yeah. And then finally, we have the old soul. So the difference between mature soul and old soul is that I think mature souls still tends to be a little bit more judgmental, right? So you can see, even though they're interested in environmentalism, but they can still have this anger, angst. It's like, how can you be condoning any of this, right? Or so they tend to take things a little bit more extreme. Also, generally, they are very peace-loving, very accepting, but also at some level very lazy, because to them anything goes, right? You whatever you want to do, yeah, go ahead. Very laid back. You can do whatever you want. They are basically the anarchy kind, right? I mean, as long as you don't harm anyone, you can do whatever you want, right? I'm not going to bother. I'm going to accept whatever you do, right? There's no such thing as right and wrong. Peace. Everything is about peace. Right? And so in the early stages, right, you are basically gathering karma. I will use karma in the traditional form, and then gradually in the later stage, you start to decrease karma. But in all decrease karma, obviously you must work at it lah. Okay, I wouldn't call it work at it lah. You basically heal, right? And there are different ways to heal, which we'll talk about later. But the idea is that eventually we'll move more and more, and you can even see the colors itself correspond to the colors of the chakras as well. Yeah? Okay, I'm going to go into Star Seeds Wonders, Indigo's Crystal Rainbow Child very briefly. It's now 9/11. I still have quite a bit to cover. So this idea is that actually, again, like I say, I think many of us are aliens, right? Many of us are star seeds. So what's the idea of Star Seeds or Wonders is that, this is not the first time it has happened. Ascension, the idea that Earth has gone through cycles, it has happened before. We didn't succeed a few times, and they realized that if there's no help from external, they will never succeed. Or in a way, humans are have entrapped themselves, and unless there is fresh consciousness, they're going to go round and round in cycle. So they ask, ask for volunteers from the galaxy, universe, who is willing to come in, hold their lights on Earth and shine lights, and hopefully, increase the consciousness of the world. And so, therefore, all of us have chosen to come in, and we therefore, are here. Actually, Jai makes a very good, comment, which I also want to say. Right, that means every civilization, every society always have all five. It's not like all the Middle East is all just baby souls. But I would say predominantly there's a certain soul group. But of course, there's always also in every culture and civilization. We need them, right? Or else that civilization will never grow. So anyway, thanks for that clarification. So basically we are here, so we can't complain. And of course, a lot of people, they talk about this indigo children. So the indigo children basically comes in from 1950s onwards. They're the hippies, they're the free love, they're the one that was taking all the drugs, the marijuana, and all these kind of things at one point in time. All the way till about 1980s. From 1980s onwards, the crystal children starts to come in. And then the rainbow children starts to come in the 2000s. So indigo children basically is supposed to take all the arrows on their back, which is basically us. The crystal children is supposed to destroy the old system. So that means the crystal children are supposed to help the indigo to basically destroy the system and rebuild the system. So indigo is supposed to destroy, very similar to the Shiva Brahma concept, right? Indigo destroy, crystal rebuild, and rainbow is supposed to experience. They are the just being kind. They are the kind, loving. They are there to show us how it could be, how love could be, how a good society could be. Okay, this walk-in idea is that some souls choose to enter into souls that was already born because they have a mission on Earth, and they choose to come in when, let's say, for example, when the person is 6 years old and there is a change or exchange of souls. Okay, so this is another part. This part is the part which I've learned before, the 5 levels of healing. One thing it is very complicated. I'm not going to go into all the complexity, but what you need to know is that there's a physical body, there's an energy body, which we can also put astral body here. Then there's a mental body, intuitive body, spirit body. So over here, they have taken the 7 levels, 7 bodies, and they make it into 5 bodies, because the first 5 bodies, the 6th body, which is the Buddhic body, and the 7th body, which is the Anic body, is a little bit too complicated, generally. So they basically combine them all into the 5th level. One thing I want to highlight is that the reason why a lot of the healing stuff and all these things, we need to understand the 5 levels, because the 5 levels really tell us, first of all, when you do a therapy, which level are you focusing on? And why is that important? Because every level itself has different therapies, it has different concepts, ideas, and each level influences the other. In fact, the higher levels will always influence the lower levels, but the lower levels will not influence the higher levels. So at the physical, so I'm going to go into the 7 different things that basically determine our health, which is a summary of the 5 levels of healing. So the first level, at the physical body level, we have 3 different things. First thing is toxicity. So these are things like heavy metals, chemical toxins, and all these things which influence our physical body. We have the second part is what we will consider metabolic stuff. So metabolic stuff will be things like our hormones, our nutrients, in terms of nutrition, vitamins, minerals. The third category under this first level will be what we call structural. So this will be all the chiropractic, our spinal system, our fluids, or the whole structure, the whole bones, our teeth as well, because the teeth and the structure is very connected. Of course, I'm not going to go into details of that. Anyway, I cover some of these things in my training, more in details. In the energy body, we are talking about things about chakras. These are a lot of the energetic therapies work at this level. At the third level, we will go into things which changes thought. So at the second level, it's more emotional. So EFT, working on the chakra system, on the meridian systems, acupuncture, all of these things are under the second level. Third level goes into the intellect or the mind, the thoughts. So these are things relating to, for example, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy. You go back to certain past things. Of course, over here, they put EFT under here as well, which is also true. At some level, the thoughts and emotions are interconnected. And by changing thoughts, you can actually change the emotion, and which then change the physical body, right? The intuitive body is the part that is actually very high level stuff. So I typically take that the first three levels are more individual soul related. Fourth level are things which may not be considered individual soul, but which nonetheless affects you. And a lot of these things are things that shamans look at. These are things like spirit attachments. These are things like curses. Things are like past lives, ancestral traumas, your soul fragmentation, or what we call soul loss, your holes in your energetic systems. Fifth level is basically linked to your ultimate destiny, things to do with, even to me, the DNA as well, your genetic code, and at a higher level, your 12 strands DNA, all this different stuff, right? Okay, so I'm just going to say, again, repeat, okay, ideally, so at the second level itself, so first level, I talk about toxicity, structure, and metabolic changes. At the second level, we are talking about electromagnetic frequency. So this is where all the EMF thing is. This is the level of the allergies. And these are also the level of what we call the scars, the focal, we call it focal or scars. It means all these scars itself also creates energetic stuff in your body. So when I say scars, I include things like circumcision, extraction of teeth, all these different things, right? And then the other things like psychospiritual issues will come under the other levels, right? So in healing itself, what you want is you want to focus on higher levels, like things like family constellation work and things like that, color, sound. Did I talk about the geometric as well, sacred geometry and all these kind of things, because those are also the basic fundamental framework of what forms you, right? So these are the these archetypal forms and all these kind of things. So this is actually at this level, which will flow downwards to all these other levels. So a lot of the reason why people keep healing, but find that the healing doesn't seem to work very well, is because in our society right now, we are focusing so much on only the first and even second or third level, but all this intelligence on the fourth level and above has actually been lost. And that's why if we keep changing only at the top level, we find that all these things from a higher level tends to keep affecting us. We basically are enslaved by our loyalty to our family line, or things that has haunted us from the past life. And we therefore need to see the soul from not just our limited ego perspective of, let's say, Darius, or say FJ, or Luke, or Trisha, but it's really a wider perspective. Because we also have to recognize that our parents are us, right? In fact, just like what I mentioned before, everyone is us, which means theoretically, until everyone heals, no one heals fully, right? We are just basically we're just moving as much as we could in the sphere of possibility. But until everyone heals, basically none of us are fully healed. Okay, so there are different sorts of toxicity. And this one I'm going to go more into it. I'm just going to list it out here. Things that we really have to look at. Toxins in the meat and radiation. Of course, the 5G is coming up, and all these different things, which is a source of toxicity. And this source of toxicity then will cause us. Okay, I want to go into this part first before I go back to the later. And this toxicity will then cause our body good cells to start to mutate into things like yeast and bacteria and things. So all this virus and yeast and bacteria is a function of toxicity. It is, the germs and all these things are not evil. They're not out to harm us. They are adaptive mechanism by the body to hold the toxins at bay so that we are not killed, or we don't die from toxicity. And there's this idea that the amount of psycho-spiritual issue, is how much psycho-spiritual shit you have will determine how much toxins you store in your body, which will then determine how much pathogens or viruses or bacteria you're affected by. And a lot of this thing is also covered in what we call terrain theory, which means that a virus or bacteria cannot come into your body if your body itself is healthy. And this will then defeat the whole idea of all this coronavirus and all these things, something coming from outside affecting you. There's also a certain research that was done during the Spanish flu period, in which they injected, healthy humans with the Spanish flu, but they didn't get sick because their body itself actually has the means to counter it. So it's really about ultimately our body's, overall health, and that's why our own physical healing. I mean, if there really is a coronavirus around, right? Really healing ourselves is really the best way to cope with that, right? So I want to just talk about the toxicity here first before I go into this part, because this part is the part where I will go into sacred medicine, things like DMT, right? Yeah. So this is the homotoxicology idea. Homotoxicology idea is that actually our body will gradually become more and more toxic, and as it becomes more and more toxic, different things start to happen. So at the first level, which we call excretion level, the body is still able to push out whatever we have. So at this level, we are still able to sweat it out. We are still able to cry it out. We are still able to cough it out. And this is actually a very healthy state because our body is always in fluid motion, and therefore, things are always changing, and we need to move. We need to go through our body's way of purging out stuff, right? But when our body is able to purge out stuff, it goes into what we call the inflammation phase. Inflammation is basically pain. What the body do is it will prevent or block the body from moving a certain part through pain in order to force you to rest so that you can actually heal that part. And that's why a lot of the drugs, painkillers and all these things, which anti-inflammatory and all these things, actually is worsening the issue, because if you allow your body to heal, it will then go back. It will not go forward. And because of our dependence on drugs, what has happened is that we tend to keep moving forward, and until eventually this part is cancer, in which basically the body is recycling, right? So after inflammation, it will deposit. Deposit means that the body will start to have growths in the body. So these are things like sebaceous cysts, warts, mole, growths in the body, fibroids, in which the body stores these toxins in storerooms to prevent the toxins from affecting the rest of the body. And after a while, when the body can no longer store them enough, there's nowhere else to store, it will start to go into what we call impregnation. Impregnation means it will start to go into the different parts of the organs. It will go into your skeleton, it will go into the organs, it will, and then this is when you start to feel really bad. So most of the time in the first 3 phases, you don't feel anything much. You still feel relatively healthy. But once you go into this part, that's when people start to experience chronic issues or chronic illnesses. This is when it starts to go into the organs. So the organs start to work less well. Over time, the organs start to fail. So this is all the liver failure, heart disease, stroke, and all these kind of things. And eventually, when the body gives up, it will go into cancer. So that's why cancer is so hard to heal, because ultimately the body has to heal and move back through all these different periods before it can actually go back to health. So this is actually where we want to be. This is a healthy state in which we are able to do what our body is supposed to do, which is to come back into homeostasis or balance. Yeah, so I already covered this. So there's actually a mind-body connection. So our mind and our body is not separate at all. So whatever we think will show up in the part of the body. So I'm not going to go through this whole list, but just to highlight certain things. For example, there's a metaphorical thing. If you feel you are not being listened to or not being heard, after a while it will affect your ears. So people with ear issue basically is saying, you don't feel you're being listened to, right? If you find that you have a lot of issues with grief, or you find that you have a lot of issues with lungs, basically you have a sadness issue that you need to heal. If there's issues with liver, it's anger. So hepatitis B, Hep B, and all this kind of thing. And anger doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad anger. That means it doesn't necessarily mean that you are an angry person. In fact, most of the time, people with liver issues are precisely the opposite. They are too nice. They cannot have a healthy boundary. So they're always accepting. I don't mean accepting the oh so accepting. They are passive aggressive. They're actually angry, but they have put the anger inside, and that will cause problems in the body. So in a way, to put it another way, disease is just a manifestation of suppressed emotion. When you're able to express out those emotions, your body don't need to store it. And if it doesn't need to store it, it doesn't need to create disease. When you create a disease, what is happening is you're feeling the emotion that you should have been feeling, right? And so when we suppress the symptoms, or we don't allow ourselves to feel, we're actually worsening the situation. And down the road, the serious disease will hit us more. That's why a lot of people, when they talk about like, they say, oh, I'm very healthy, I never fall sick, right? That's actually very dangerous because it means that they may have shut themselves off from this whole feeling cycle, right? In fact, it's usually the people who are, into spiritual, because, people always say, to tell all the spiritual people, I mean, if you are so spiritual, why are you always sick? To me, the reason why I will tell them is, spiritual people are sick because they rather have those small sickness than to have the big sickness, right? So it is actually normal and healthy to go through some kind of course, hopefully not too disruptive, right? But really, the body should have some means to try to get back to balance. Okay, so now we're going to go into the healing aspects. Okay, so I beg your pardon because I know it's almost 9:30. I think I'm going to overrun. I value and treasure the time that you have given me. So I hope that you can indulge me to finish off this presentation, right? Okay, hope it will definitely be done before 10. Definitely, I promise you. Okay, yeah. So this part itself is really about so that there are all these different healing techniques. Okay, so like I mentioned, the 5 levels of healing. Ultimately, what we want to really talk about is that all these different healing techniques itself will follow one of these 5 levels. This is here. Which I forgot about the drugs. Okay, I need to talk about this, right? Because it's so close to my heart, right? So you can see all these things about toxicity is you can see the more red they are, the more toxic they are. And so approaching poison, right? But yet the green things are the one that is allowed, and the red things are the one that is not allowed. Which means that in a way we are very hypocritical, right? Because yes, we ban heroin and GHB, but we don't ban alcohol. But yet alcohol is more toxic than, for example, DMT, which has to do with all the ayahuasca. It is more toxic than cannabis, which is marijuana. Right? And of course, in the second talk, I'll talk about why they ban cannabis and all this kind of thing. It is more toxic than psychobilin, which is magic mushroom. Yeah, so alcohol, and for those coffee, for those people who like smoking, tobacco is here. For those people who like drink coffee, caffeine is here. So even caffeine is even more toxic than some of these other things. And yet, our society has chosen to ban certain things while keeping certain things available. So to me, that is hypocrisy, right? Okay, so coming back to this. So there are all these different techniques that I was saying, it ultimately it goes to vibrational match. That means all these different vibration is at different levels. So there are some levels at the energy bodies, there are some levels at the mental body, at the higher level bodies are causal bodies. I mean, if you really want to look at it, causal body is about will, the decision. Just like I mentioned about decision, right? So mental body, you can consider your thoughts. Emotional body will be your emotion, and then energy body will be considered, how all these things interface at your energy, and then it manifests in your physical. So the most important thing is actually to find what we call a vibrational match. And in homeopathy, they call this the law of similars. Law of similars, and in my vocabulary, I'll call it the law of correspondence. Because what you want to do is to find a frequency match that matches most closely or most closely with your issue. The moment you can find the closest match, you will achieve healing, right? So there is therefore there's no one herb or one medication or one substance that can cure you, because what you are trying to look for is a match, and there is no one miracle drug. So something that is toxic to somebody can actually be a boon to another. Okay, so healing, my definition of healing is simply this creation of the creation that you no longer want to create. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, this is the only one that I have a Word document because I just want to put it out here, right? So you are a creative machine. Okay, I don't put machine, creative being. You're always creating. And what are you creating? You're creating your desires. We are here to experience. God wants to experience. So when God gives you desire, that is the desire that God wants, and it wants to experience it through you. So there's nothing wrong with desire. Whatever you're experiencing in terms of desire is whatever God gives you. When you have that desire, you will then want to create it. And when you try to create it, it will eventually manifest. Not necessarily in your lifetime, but across one of the lifetime, which means since you're everyone, you would have lived through every possible life, which means you would have lived through every possible richness, poverty, because all of that is all part of the whole desires framework. So I would like to be a bit cheeky here, right? So another way of putting it is, if you ever see somebody and say, I would love to have sex with that person, it's going to happen eventually, right? It may not be in this lifetime when they're pretty, maybe in another lifetime when they're ugly, unfortunately, right? But eventually it's going to happen, right? And so the only way that you can, because your will or your decision will achieve whatever it happens, so therefore the only way to change it is you either change your mind, you decide you no longer want it, you achieve the goal in real life, means it manifests in your reality, or you achieve the goal in consciousness, which means it is possible to imagine that you already achieve it and therefore it will disappear. Okay, and when you try to achieve your goal, you will then experience setback, right? And the reason why you experience setback, of course, is because you create it as well. But when you create those setbacks, you then forget that you create that setback, and then you tell yourself, oh, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, people are no good, the world is no good, and all these different things, we call it a decision of defeat. It becomes an energy block, and therefore, based on law of attraction, you cannot manifest the thing you want, because whatever you want, you have decided not, or you have created a thought that has blocked yourself from. It's like God wants to give you, but you are telling me you want it, and yet you say you don't want it. So what do you want me to do? Right? I cannot give you what you, unless you are in congruence, fully congruent, and every part of you is congruent. I cannot give you what you want, because there's a part of you that says, I'm not good enough to have it. There's a part of you that says, I don't deserve it. And that part is the part that we need to dissolve, or we need to heal. And ultimately, the solution is to dissolve. And how that can be done is through energetically. So you can do that through different, taking the right homeopathics, taking the right flower medicine, doing the right chiropractic adjustment. Actually, that's also, doing the right energetic chiropractic adjustment, toning the right sound, doing the right mudra. Okay, you get the idea, right? Yeah. So basically, it's an energetic thing. Or you can go back to original decision and reframe it, which is through hypnosis regression. You need to feel all the emotion, because all emotion, unexpressed emotion, or unexpressed communication needs to be expressed and communicated in order to free up the energy, right? You need to forgive yourself and others. Restoration or restitution means if you think that you have done something wrong, you will do what you need to correct for the wrong. Let's say, for example, you feel you have done something wrong to another person, you go back to the person and say, I think I did something wrong to you. How do you want me to restore this imbalance, right? To put it in a very technical term, that's basically it, right? And a lot of people do this just before they die, right? So they will say, can I talk to this person and say, I'm so sorry I've done this to you and all this, which of course go into forgiveness, but they can say, how do you want me to compensate you? Do you want me to give you my car? Do you want me to do this for you? All this kind of thing. So that is basically restitution. But ultimately, love and gratitude, because of the high energy, it basically dissolves everything in a way, right? And in a way, you can see this. This is also quite similar to the whole Ho'oponopono idea. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, because that basically covers the energetic framework, right? In many ways, right? So moving on. Okay, this is the interesting part. Okay, there's this ultimate mystery teaching. Okay, many of the secret society of mystery teachings, all the so-called the inner teachings of the religion, all talk about this ultimate mystery teaching is what we call sex magic. Sex magic means that, in order to allow your Kundalini to rise, or in order for you to build up your energy bodies, the way to do it is to find a partner. Okay, for some people it says find many partners. Okay, but I'll stick to conservative. Else this video will never go out to anybody. I'll stick to the conservative. Okay, to one partner. Okay, and with this one partner itself, you are supposed to have sex in order to raise the Kundalini energy, or in order to raise the energy, sexual energy. Because sexual energy basically is the most powerful energy in the universe. It is what creates universe. It's what creates world, and that's why it can create a human being. And the only difference between normal sex and sex magic or sacred sex is you are not supposed to ejaculate. For guys, no sperms, no emission, no, you basically, the moment you ejaculate, you have dissipate the energy, and therefore because of that energy, dissipation is gone, right? I mean, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to raise energy, flow through move through your, your Ida, Sushima, Pingala, through that whole chain, builds up your spinal system until it reaches your brain, fully opens out your mind, access different states of consciousness. Yeah, so that is basically the idea. Okay. Having said that, theory is easy, right? So I'm an armchair theorist, right? Sometimes practical is not so easy. Okay, next, moving on. Okay, so Carl Jung also talked about the 11 stages, and we can see that in the first few stages, in the first mid-level, it's really about building up your ego. Okay, one of the biggest issue with people is that they allow the ego to not be built up first before they go into the second part of dissolving the ego. And that's when a lot of problems surface, like mental illness and all this. It's really about because they haven't built up a self. There's no self, so therefore that boundary is so fully open that a lot of things can just come into their space. Right? So a lot of the psychics are sensitive, and which I'll talk about also about how we treat mental health and mental illness. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we have not allowed ourselves to build up this personality or this ego first. Right? So in Jung's case, they believe that it actually passes through the first stage, in which we have to build up our ego, and then eventually in the later stage, we will actually realize itself by facing our shadow, discovering what we call the trickster or the demonic, the dark side of us. Because ultimately, we are all both light and dark as well, and we have to also accept the dark part of us. So again, Carl Jung said this way, Maslow hierarchy of needs say in terms of this way that ultimately, we go through physical needs, we go through safety needs, belonging needs, esteem needs, and actually ultimately self-actualization needs. And you can see this is the 3 steps: our body, mind, spirit, and our soul. And so you can know how far you have evolved based on, what kind of interest do you have. If your interest is only in money, sex, possession, all these things, you're not, your needs you're not really gone too much out of this, and you're just focusing on some things which is, you are focusing on physical body, you're not really concentrating on other parts. When you start to develop your mind, you start to look at, challenges, personal growth, mental stimulation. So you become intellectual generally, right? And when you start to go into the level of the soul, you start to really look at the higher dimension, right? Your spiritual identity. Who are you really? Who do you want to be? Your purpose in life. What's your relationship with the divine? How do you evolve in this path? Talk about ascension, ultimate destiny, and things like that. So this actually really tell you, where you are in the things. So that forms the framework of what I call the inner transformation roadmap. Ultimately, the idea is that as we go through the spine, what we want as the Kundalini awakens, it will go through the spine, and as it goes through the spine, it will actually awaken different aspects or different parts of us. So the first part of real true awakening, I would say, is actually Kundalini awakening. And I know some of you have mentioned, sometimes you shake, or you have unusual movement, unusual hits when you do meditation, all these kind of things. That is very common when your Kundalini is awakened. Okay, I'm not talking about full awakening. Different people have different awakening, and of course, whatever awakens for you is whatever needs to happen for you at this point in time. And as the Kundalini awaken, what it will do is it will move through your body system. And the reason why your body moves is called Kriya. The reason why your body moves is because your body is actually trying to release the blocks that is in different parts of your body. And sometimes people who have gone through Kundalini awakening, some of them have gone crazy. Some of them, it burns up their nervous system because the body cannot take it. And that's actually something that really is something to highlight, because ultimately the evolution, right? Because everything is here. I mean, if you look at 0 point energy, if you look at the idea of holographic universe, in this one moment in time and this one space, the whole universe is present. So the fact that you are not yet God with full consciousness means the problem is not the consciousness. The problem is, can your physical body hold that level, that capacity, right? And for most of us, we can't, right? Which means our energetics, our nervous system cannot hold that electrical charge that is required in order to run the brain that is able to tap onto this power, right? So in many ways, Kundalini awakening is a gradual process. There's no way about it because our nervous system has to gradually build up to be able to accommodate or accomplish this capacity to take on greater and greater energies. So usually as the Kundalini awakens, people go into what we call spiritual emergency. And of course, Trisha, which I will highlight here, talks a lot about that. She because a lot of this spiritual emergency can look to many people like mental illness. And these people who are supposed to be shamans, who are supposed to be psychics, who are supposed to be prophets and seers, we basically give them a medication and we, put them in jackets, straight jackets, and we don't allow them to function to be what they are. And as the Kundalini keeps awakening, Siddha powers come into being. Right? So what are Siddha powers? This one, I think at half, again, I'm going to point out names, we'll mention about, that because maybe I'll just summarize because Siddha powers is basically all the psychic powers, all the powers which Jesus Christ demonstrate, walking on water, being able to, people have done biolocation, which means that they can see different places at once. Some people have moved their physical body, they are seen in different places at once. They become as big as the universe, they can be as small as the atom, or be able to perceive everything in the atom. Basically everything, because you see, ultimately, as we move into the oneness stage, like I mentioned, we take on all perspective, which means that we can become everything and everyone. And when we become everything and everyone, nothing is beyond us. We become the law of gravity, so therefore we can levitate. We become, we become every animal, and therefore we have the sharpness of eyes of the eagle. We can breathe underwater because we are able to tap onto the powers of the fish. Okay, I'm not saying that every single person who has awakened their Kundalini will be able to do all of it, right? Because I think in our evolutionary path, we have not yet reached that point where, as a humankind, we have achieved that powers yet, right? But there are glimpses of it in different people. And each time somebody is able to achieve it, basically it pushes the potential for everyone else. And then that reaches to enlightenment. So again, enlightenment, you can put it here, you can put it here, what do we call enlightenment? Okay, I can say full enlightenment, but what is fully enlightened? Actually, to me, after a while, it's a moot question. But to me, the way that I would define as enlightenment is, you realize, or my definition of enlightenment is, you realize after a while that everything in your life is created, and so therefore you accept everything. You accept the good things, you accept the bad things. Nothing is good or bad. It just is. And whatever comes to you, you choose it for what it is because there's no other choice. I mean, that sounds very pessimistic, but that means you accept whatever comes to you because you understand that whatever comes to you is whatever you need for your next stage of evolution. There's no mistake. Everything is as it is. Everything is perfect and ideal. But yet at the same time, there's a humility, right? So I just want to, everyone just please out and just accept, right? But again, like I say, there's this duality, unity, duality. We are living in both an absolute universe as well as a relative universe. So that both of these are at play. So yes, it's true. There are beings out there right now who's living in caves who says, I don't know why Darius is making the fuss, all this fuss about. But at the same time, I think every one of us is playing a role, and I think full enlightenment includes playing that role, which means that even Jesus Christ knows he's going to crucify. He willingly go into it because he knows that is the role that he needs to play. To me, that's full enlightenment. Yeah, okay. Going to rainbow body ascension. Okay, so rainbow body ascension is a very interesting concept. It's something that happens apparently in Tibetan teachings. Some of these beings are able to turn into light body, which means that their body turns into light. And my theory is they have basically brought their physical body into the astral realm. Of course, we know about astral projection, in which our astral body moves into the astral realm, but we don't bring our physical body. So these beings who are able to have fully achieved, I think, everything that they need to achieve in the physical body and no longer need to be in the physical body, they actually leave the physical body, and some of this happen after death. Their body actually starts to dissolve into light. And so, I mean, if you Google about it, it's amazing. I've seen pictures of people, apparently a monk who is half his size. After he died, his body just started to not decompose, move, transform into light. Yeah, so this is the remote body idea. Okay, so these are just different models. So I'm just going to go into, there's a Timothy Leary's 8-circuit model of neurobiology. There's an integral model of this is by Ken Wilber. It talks about the different, how we are, at the different levels of thing, which again, if you're interested, you can read more about. And this is something funny I read about, where they go into they talk about enlightened, the realization that anything is possible, right? And enlightened is not even the highest. Then you have all this thing about alien, the ability to explore every corner of the universe, and then eventually you become God. All becomes one, right? So actually, this one has no scientific basis. It doesn't have all the, all this beautiful. Okay, not so much this one, but all these beautiful theories and all these things. It's just a funny thing. And I thought, at this point in time, I think humor is important as well. So, just something to look at. Okay, finally, last thing I want to talk about, right? Yeah, this is absolutely the last thing before 10 o'clock. And this is something that I just realized today. In fact, this news is just today. I thought I would talk about it in the second talk, but I realized that, I'm so excited that I want to share here first, as well as the fact that I think, I just want to talk about this. And I don't know how many of you know this actually. This idea of personality. Okay, this is a mind-blowing concept. Okay, if it's true, if it's true. Okay, I've not done enough research and studies, and maybe some of the lawyers here can tell me. Okay, the basic premise is this: when you are born, you are given a birth certificate, right? That birth certificate is in caps, all caps, which means that it's in capital letters. Like for example, in my case, my capital letter name is Sun Ziqian. And usually you also see that, a lot of things is Mr. and Mrs. And you realize that, your IC itself is a capital letter. You realize that when you go and, open a bank account, you go and do some things like insurance and all these things, they always ask you in the form, please write in capital letters. Please write in capital letters. Please write in capital letters. Why? Apparently, when you have a birth certificate, what happens is in the birth certificate itself, when they actually put down Sun Ziqian, what they are actually doing is they have created what we call a straw man or a legal fiction. They have created a corporation, and that corporation is not you, but it is a corporate you. And when they do that, birth certificate and they file it with the country, okay, the country itself is also a corporation, which means Singapore in capital letters is actually Singapore Inc. Singapore Incorporated. When they file it with the legal department, what has happened is you are actually under this thing called a commercial law. You are not under common law anymore. Under commercial law, you are now a property of Singapore Incorporated. You are basically a slave. Okay, again, I would not say slave is an extreme word. You're basically a slave under a country system. And which means that every time they ask you for an IC, right? Which means, let's say you commit in common law, right? So there's this thing about common versus commercial law. Okay, so in common law, there's only the laws of the land or the laws of God. And in common law itself, there's only a few things which binds you, right? These few things that bind you is, for example, you should not harm other people. Because if you harm people, yes, you come under common law. You should not do anything that creates disturbance or disruption or endanger the peace of other people. So as long as you conform to, this is just a few laws, right? But as long as you don't do anything harmful to anybody, anything else is free. You are free to do anything you want under common law. But under commercial law, all the statutes, all the laws, or all the legal laws, all the things which the parliament and government set for you, you are binded by under commercial law. That means the moment you sign a contract or you say, you open a bank account, you are basically saying, I am a property of Singapore Incorporated. I am opening up a bank account as an employee of Singapore, and therefore Singapore can take away my bank account if necessary, because it is ultimately, because I'm the property of the company. So the country can do whatever they want. If they want to vaccinate me right now, I have no choice. Because under statute laws, that statute laws means that I have no choice but to comply. Because I was never a natural person. I was a straw man right from the start. It is a paper system in which they have said that there's no natural person called Sun Ziqian. There's only a capital letter named Sun Zijian, and this Sun Zijian is equivalent to the natural person. So when you have this straw man, and this straw man is of course your parents don't know, right? But the moment they do that birth certificate and give to the government, what they are saying is, I have now I've given you as property my child. And from now on, as long as you use the capital letter or use the Mr. or Mrs., he is subjected to all the statutes and the laws of the country which we call Singapore, under all the statute laws. Okay? And therefore, there's something between law versus legal. Law means it's all about common laws. Legal means it's under legal, which means it's under commercial law, which means, let's say you say, okay, I don't want to wear my mask, okay, because my mask itself is under statute law, which means some of you probably know about the sovereign lady, right? So a sovereign lady is saying, I'm a sovereign lady. So when she says I'm a sovereign lady, she is claiming that under the common law, I do not subscribe to that of the commercial law that you bind me by. Okay, of course she got charged and all this kind of thing. So I'm not saying to test it out immediately, right? Okay, please don't immediately after this throw away the mask and start to say, Darius, tell me I'm a sovereign person and you have no right to go and please don't do that, right? I'll get into trouble, you'll get into trouble, we're all screwed, right? So don't do that, right? Okay, but to me this is the most important thing, because what this is saying is all the laws of the country that is binding on us under the statute laws, under the parliament itself, is actually illegal. Because at that point in time when they did the birth certificate itself, we entered into a contract that we do not know about. Or it is not a willing buyer, willing seller. That means this whole thing, our whole life has actually been a contract. We have been contracted to Singapore Incorporated. And we are the straw man and the natural person. We have linked ourselves up. And that's why under the police system, they always ask you, okay, give me your IC, right? Because the moment they give your IC, the moment you give your IC or give your birth certificate, they are actually using that as a basis to charge you or to impose whatever, under law, under rule, what you have actually committed this thing. And the only way that they can do that is because they have the IC. And because your IC or your birth certificate is registered as a property of the state. That's the only way that they can get to you. Okay, now that sounds scary, right? Okay, now let's talk about how do you get out of it, right? Okay, actually, I don't know whether we can get out of it, because I don't know whether Singapore, okay, before this talk, I've actually gone to Wikipedia. I have checked, and under Wikipedia, Singapore itself do follow common law, because we are a British colony, right? So we follow common law. So strictly speaking, we are subjected to common law. But the only problem is, right now, there's no natural healing, and there's no natural person called Sun Ziqian in small caps. It doesn't exist. There's only Sun Ziqian, the big caps, because that's the only person that has been registered, right? So if you go to this commonlawcourt.com, it's a website that allows you to register yourself under common law as an individual, as a natural person. That means from then onwards, okay, if whatever they say is true, from then onwards, you are a natural person. Means you, strictly speaking, the statutes and the laws of the government itself may not apply to you, because you are saying, I'm really a sovereign because there is a natural person, and control my strawman. The strawman is not just, that means I am now a natural person. I have a company, which is my Sun Zichen, because obviously I need a strawman, because everything that function now uses a strawman. But as a natural person, if there is certain things that I do not want, I do not like, that means, of course, maybe if I need to borrow a loan, if I put my, natural thing, they're not going to agree to it, right? But if I'm just hoping, I don't know how true it is. But if let's say they say, okay, mandatory vaccine, everyone has to vaccinate now for the COVID-19, maybe, hopefully, maybe, if I say, hey, under common law, actually I'm a natural person. And this statute itself, therefore, do not apply to me. Because that is a statute law, and and that is under contract, right? So if I don't agree to it, you can do something to my straw man, but you cannot take action against me as a natural person. Because I have another separate identity. It's like dual passport, right? I have this straw man, but I also have a passport, which is my own natural sovereign being, right? And if you want to read more about this, you can go to some of these things, right? Okay, so finally, last one. Okay, so this is the marketing part, but actually, honestly, I'm not selling anything, right? So this is really something that I want to really get out, and hopefully you find this information useful. I will be having a second talk next week, in which we'll go into a lot of this other stuff about the new Earth. Like I mentioned, we really go into the deep of the Illuminati and Kabbalah, what it's all about in the second talk. Yeah, so if you would like to join us and, to me, resist peacefully what is happening to us, please go to our Facebook page. If you are not a friend with me, first add me. So all the instructions are here. Please, oh shucks, I have it in capital letters. Okay, I'm going to check that. The PowerPoint is all capital letters, right? So, but I need to change this soon, right? Okay, but yeah, but add me on Facebook, and I'll add you to the Facebook group. I think as a community, let's try to, do something. Yeah. Okay. So the next time is a Great Awakening too. Okay. So just to end off, okay, and it's 10 o'clock. So hopefully I fulfill my promise. If you can, before you go, if you would like a video of this, please put down your email at the sidebar in the chat. I'm going to, don't worry, I'm not going to market anything or anything. I'm not interested, honestly. I'm just, at this point in time, this is my entire focus. I just want to get the message out. Just put down your email, and I will, after I have this video, I will send out an email to all of you. Like I mentioned, I do not want any donation for this talk. Please share it as widely as you want to with people if you feel it will help them. Yeah, so that's all. So once you have written down your email, to have this copy of this video, you're free to leave the meeting. Unless anybody, I'm sorry, I didn't really have a chance to let people ask questions. And yeah, but hopefully, maybe next there will be more time. Yeah. Common versus political law. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so please, yeah, so goodbye. I hope to see you all next week. Charles.